Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a lot to talk about. There was a lot of good action over the weekend. To be honest with you, I haven't checked out much of the World Baseball Classic yet. I have not had enough time to check that out. So we're going to stick we're going to stick with the Dodgers action in spring training. It's going to be kind of a nuanced type of show today because it's going to be more of kind of the down staff type of battles. And we're going to talk about some of maybe the guys that you need to look out for, some of the position battles. So if you're looking for the top headline stuff, like talk about Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, some of the sexiest type of headlines maybe in the Dodgers system, today's probably not the show for you because I've just got some topics and some battles and some players that I think it's very, very important if you're a baseball fan, if you're a Dodgers fan, that you kind of are made aware of and that you know about at least and that you become informed about. So we're going to talk about some battles as far as some bullpen guys that may, down the road be considered for some of the bullpen spots. Ben Kasparius pitched on Saturday. Jack Dreyer looked good again. Kyle Hurt had a rough outing. Paul Gervais looked very good. We'll get into him here in just a minute. Garrett McDaniels looked good. Antonio Knowles, after getting down 3-0 to the first hitter, climbed right back, struck out his last two. So there's a lot to talk about on the bullpen front. Blake Trinan did not look good, so I might have to eat some crow on that one. We'll get to that here in a minute too. There is a ton to talk about on the bullpen on the bullpen front. We're going to get to all that, and again, it's not going to be maybe the top end guys, but we're going to get to kind of what I call the nitty gritty of, maybe some of the last spots or how the Dodgers may pivot here or there if they need to, if there's an injury situation. We're going to talk about Justin Robleski and his start. What's the role for maybe a Ben Kasparius? Those kinds of things. Andy Pages. We're going to talk about some of the things that I think have made him so successful. And we're going to have kind of a nuanced show, and we're going to go until we run out of things to talk about today. Another guy's Nick Senzel that I wanted to talk about. So first of all, let's get it put on the board, and let's absolutely get into it. And let's talk some Justin Robleski, my boy. I had a chance to actually communicate with him this morning about kind of the way things are going for him, because whenever I looked up, kind of his outing and some of the pitches that he threw and the mix that he had working, how about this, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, this was very, very, very impressive. Justin Robleski featured 6 different pitches: 4-seam, 2-seam, curveball, slider, and change. 6 in 3 different innings. So here's the thing about Wrobo. One, we've been saying many different times in the offseason, going all the way back. This isn't my statement. This is talking to people within the organization. They really feel like that World Series outing, the outings last year for Justin Robleski in the World Series, should give him the experience that would lead to the confidence to springboard that into just being an everyday mainstay guy that's at the top of the trust tree for Dave Roberts. He's done nothing to dispel any of that. He's done nothing but add to that, honestly. And to be honest with you, his outing yesterday, I mean, if you weren't impressed with Justin Robleski's outing yesterday, I don't know, man, because, again, 6 different pitches, pitching backwards, pitching to both sides of the plate, pitching to the top of the zone, sweeping it to the – see how he's up and in there, sweeping it, and then he's down. See how he just went up and in? Then he swept it to the back foot. You've seen him hit the top of the zone. You've seen him hit the outside corner. Let me back that up and show you how he hit this glove side corner here. So watch the glove side corner. Now watch him attack the top of the zone on that pitch. And then you just saw just a second ago the sequence where he went up and in, and then he threw the back foot slider. 6 different pitches, every single location. He's had control, meaning he's not walking people. Control is actually throwing strikes. He's showing command that I just showed you by hitting the glove side corner, by hitting the top of the zone, by sweeping it to the back foot, by hitting it up and in. He's showing confidence, and he's showing to be a guy that's doing exactly what the Dodgers would hope that he would have done, and that is use his experience from last year to springboard into being an even better version of Justin Wroblewski. So I read the 6 pitches and I was like, man, wow, this is that's pretty crazy for a 3-inning stint. So I actually messaged Wrobo and he messaged back, indeed, I have it confirmed. This is not me just saying, hey, this is what was tagged by a computer and put on Baseball Savant or whatever. This is confirmed from the source himself. 6 pitches. Totally impressed with Justin Wroblewski. I think unless things just fall off the wagon here, which I don't see that happening, I think we need to put to bed to talk to whether Justin Wroblewski's actually going to make the team or not. I think at this point, that's kind of a slap in the face. I think right now the conversation with Justin Wroblewski is, how big of a role does he have? Does he take Blake Snell's position in the starting rotation? Does he become a reliever? Now, keep in mind, obviously left on left, Blake Snell being left-handed, Justin Wroblewski being a lefty, he's throwing 6 pitches, which would suggest that is a starter's mix. He's doing all those things, but understood he was substantially, not kind of, not a little bit, he was substantially better in terms of ERA as a reliever last year than he was a starter. Now, he started this game, so you might be able to say, well, that was last year. This is this year. Again, use your own logic, use your own narrative here, and say, well, last year was last year, but he had game 6 and 7, and now this year is this year. So I'm not going to base whether he could be a successful starter on anything that happened last year. I'm going to base that on he has 6 pitches, he's showing confidence, and he's pitching very well right now. You could make that case too. So I think Justin Wroblewski is one of the most interesting stories in spring training for the Dodgers, because I think there's several different layers of that. First of all, I say with confidence that the narrative needs to shift away from will he make the roster. I say that, but still, this is a loaded roster. I get it. There is talent after talent after talent. So there is a world to where Justin Wroblewski starts in AAA Oklahoma City. I don't see it. I think that would be a pretty large disappointment. I think you could go so far as to say slap in the face if that does happen. So you have that. Is he going to start with the 26-man roster? For one, I think that's probably down staff in terms of the storylines for Justin Wroblewski. I think the storyline is he a starter? Is he a reliever? And then if he's a reliever, what type of reliever is he? There's no way that you can take 6 pitches, the sequencing that I just showed you just a minute ago with Justin Wroblewski, the different pitches, the different locations, the different sequencing. There's no way you can take that and convince me that you're going to maximize that, what he's offering right now, by giving him 1-inning relief stints. So not only is he a starter or a reliever, well, if you do move him to the bullpen, what kind of bullpen role is it? It can't be a 1-inning relief guy. It has to be multi-inning, basically not a starter, but basically a starter, meaning he's a piggyback type guy. So he goes 3, 4 innings, maybe one time, maybe a time and a half, certainly maybe twice through a lineup on a given night, and especially considering who's available, who's not available, who's been used too much at that time. So I wanted to I'm going to kind of lump these two. I'm going to lump my guys that I wanted to talk about today into just kind of different lumps. So the first lump is guys that I think definitely 100% have a role at the major league level, 1,000% on that. But the question is what role and to what extent. So, okay, the next guy I want to talk about, you just saw on your screen. I actually had my scenes backwards here. This is Ben Kasparias. Ben Kasparias, again, was fantastic at the beginning of last year. He was good 2 years ago, so he has the same experience that Wrobo has in the World Series. Struggled down the stretch because the Dodgers used him too much, point blank. But he showed you a full mix yesterday. The slider and actually, back that up. I said that backwards. Kasparias is kind of the opposite of Wroblewski right now to me. while Wrobleski's showing 6 pitches. Kasperius basically was exclusively, and let me show you this pitch here in a minute. Look, this is not a curveball. So let me get to this. Let me hold on. Once this is clunky, I'm by myself. So let me get to right here. Watch this pitch. Wow. Well, that one's not actually it. The next one coming up, this one right there. See that? That's actually a sweeper, okay? So what Kasperius is doing right now is he's throwing a shorter slider that he's calling a cutter, and he's throwing a bigger slider that he's calling a sweeper, and he's throwing about 30 to 40% fastballs, 4 seams off of that. So he's a move the ball type of guy to get underneath barrels, sometimes to miss barrels. So he's going the opposite route of Wrobleski. While Wrobleski's adding to his mix, throwing 6 pitches, Ben Kasperius is capable of throwing 6 pitches, but to me, he is simplifying down to basically a slider that he's changing shapes with, and then about a third of the time, a fastball. So by him condensing, that tells me that Ben Kasperius is squarely preparing for a relief role, a role in the bullpen, and one that with basically a 2.5 to 3 pitch mix. When you look at the slider, it's listed as a cutter, sweeper, 4-seam, a guy that goes to the lineup one time. So at best, maybe a 3-inning stint guy. So there's 2 guys right there that are very exciting. Justin Wrobleski, Ben Kasperius. I think Ben's ERA in spring training so far is around a 3. Those are 2 guys that are, to me, this is what spring training's for, is to determine, is Ben Kasperius, if he's going to make the 26-man roster, he's going to either be like the last bullpen arm on or one of the last bullpen arms on. I think he's fighting with like a Will Klein. I think he's fighting with like a Kyle Hurt. I think he's fighting for all those guys. I know there's a lot of people that think he'll make it. We'll see. I'm not convinced that Ben Kasperius will break camp on the 26-man roster. Of course, I'm rooting for it, but again, I root for all these guys, so it's hard for me to say I'm rooting for one guy or the other. But I will say I think Justin Wrobleski is ramping up in a way that would justify him taking that starting role from Blake Snell by featuring 6 pitches, and not just saying 6 pitches on paper, but actually executing all 6, sequencing them, and throwing them in a way that actually makes six pitches not too much. Ben Kasperius on the other end, squarely preparing, in my opinion, just by the mix that he's throwing, to be a multi-inning reliever, 2, maybe 3 innings at a time. Probably 2 innings the way that he's going right now. Maybe 1 time through the lineup. So I wanted to clump those 2 together with the action over the weekend in terms of Wrobo and Big Ben, because I think those are the guys that you have to look out for. Hey, are they going to make the roster? Are they not? If they do, what's their role? So I wanted to, just to kind of give context to who we're covering here, not just say, hey, this is that guy. I wanted to give context as to why we're covering this guy, the theme behind what's important to them, and what you need to be looking out for. So here is my next clump, and these are guys that are absolutely not going to make the 26-man roster. Not at all, not unless just all hell breaks loose and things just kind of start spiraling and snowballing. Look at that slider there. And you get way down staff and you have to go to kind of that next line of guys, and that is Paul Gervais and Garrett McDaniels. Who you just saw right there was Paul Gervais. Remember, he has massive extension. He's 6'10", and the fastball has sat around 95, so it's not like he's throwing at 100 miles an hour. But he does have good velo, and it has good carry at the top of the zone, like you're seeing right there. But it's not the fastball. Although that fastball to the top of the zone there is really, really good, it's been the slider, that pitch right there. That slider for Paul Gervais, you can see he's very excited about that. And yes, he's excited about getting a strikeout. But really the emotion you just saw right there from Paul Gervais, yes, it's the strikeout. Yes, it's the results. What he's most excited about is his slider has been a great pitch. And keep in mind, I think he has 6 outings, maybe 5. Don't quote me on the exact outings. Every single outing for Paul Gervais this spring training has been 100% dominant, except for the outing before last. So he threw Sunday. The outing last Thursday, He threw one very successful inning, came out for the second inning, did not record an out. That outing, he gave up 3 runs in 3 recorded outs, I think it was, so that was ugly. But his other, I think, 5 outings, maybe 4 outings around that, but I think he has 6 outings in total, haven't been good. They have been completely dominant. And as good as his fastball is with the extension that he throws, 6'10", I have been told by people in the system, 7.5-foot extension, Tyler Glasnow type stuff. So that 95-mile-an-hour fastball, yeah, that's pretty good. Let me actually back this up and show you this pitch here and show you what I'm talking about with his slider. So right here, let me get to the video. Watch this slider right here. You tell me. Wow. I mean, that is a big-time pitch for a dude that's 6'10", has 7.5-foot extension, and is probably sitting at 95 right now, is probably, as the season goes on, going to sit 96, maybe 97 as things go on, with 7.5-foot extension to go with that big slider. So again, I'm not trying to blow smoke and tell you Paul Gervais is going to make the opening day roster. He's not. He's not. I mean, as of right now, if he started tomorrow, he's absolutely not. Although, I mean, I don't see the Dodgers DFAing Blake Trinan. I get it. He gave up 4 runs. He has not been impressive. He had a bad year last year. I went on record last time and went on and on about how I trust Blake Trinan and how I think because of that trust, because the way he's honest, he's going to have a great year. Then he goes out and puts out his worst performance. So we'll have to continue to evaluate. But just know this. It will take a lot, I mean a lot, for the Dodgers to move away from a Blake Trinan. I mean, look how hard it was for them to move off of Michael Conforto. It was very hard for them to move off of Austin Barnes. Very hard for them to move off of Chris Taylor. When you have a guy in Blake Trinan that has held the ball in the 8th inning of a World Series and you haven't won a 162-game seasoned World Series since 1988, and that guy holds the ball in the 8th inning and absolutely comes up nails, and that was, what, less than 700 days ago? When you have that guy, I promise you, the Dodgers will be loyal to that guy until they absolutely cannot be. So the best case scenario, we just need to root for Blake Trinan because it's going to be, I'm just telling you, it's going to be if the Dodgers ever do come off of Trinan, it's going to be a slow process, and rightfully so. I think all Dodgers fans have to agree with that because, again, if you have the runway for Hiroki Sasaki, okay, because you probably made some deals for him, you made some promises, then you darn sure ought to have the runway for a guy like a Blake Trinan who also has been big time in helping you win a World Series. So I say that, I kind of got off topic there to say that I don't see them moving off of Blake Trinan anytime soon. So for a guy like a Paul Gervais, the spots are going to be limited. It's going to come down to who's healthy, who's not, and what spots are available. But if the Dodgers, if all hell breaks loose in that kind of scenario, the 2 guys that I would watch the closest, or at least I think Paul Gervais is the guy to watch the closest in that case, depending on whether Kyle Hurt or Will Klein's on the roster at that time. Another guy that is very, very good is a left-hander in Garrett McDaniels. Garrett McDaniels threw Saturday night. This is a lefty that has major league experience. Keep in mind he got taken in the Rule 5 draft by the Los Angeles Angels. And, hey, the major league stint wasn't great, but I'll tell you this, I've talked to him. The throw got off, and that happens a lot of times when guys go to different organizations. And as soon as he got back to the Dodgers last year, they went back to the same mechanical structures, the same throw that he had when he was with the Dodgers before. And so they got back to his old throw, and because of that, he was very successful. Nice play there. Noah Miller had a baby. I know you didn't make the play, but great hustle, nice play. So Garrett McDaniels is a really good lefty. I think Ronan Kopp's another guy you need to watch out for. But I wanted to, not on the 40-man. Again, he's not going to make the 26-man roster, but clump him in with a Ronan Kopp, with a Paul Gervais, with guys like that if all hell breaks loose and the Dodgers have to dive down into their depth, I think these are the guys that the Dodgers will reach down and get first. Now, when it comes to Will Klein, when it comes to to Kyle Hurt, when it comes to Ben Kasparius, when it comes to Paul Gervais, when it comes to Ronan Kopp, when it comes to Garrett McDaniels. To be honest with you, I think Garrett probably is somewhere towards the bottom of that list. So it would have to snowball pretty good for him to get a chance, especially early on. Maybe not as the season goes on. But keep in mind, he has major league experience. The Dodgers really do like this guy. And he was with AAA Oklahoma City all last year. So he's already knocking on the door. So I just wanted to lump Paul Gervais and Garrett McDaniels together there, because I think those are guys that are not going to make the 26. But if the Dodgers need to reach down into some of their depth, they would be some of the first guys that I think the Dodgers would bring up into the conversation. So wanted to lump Wroblewski, Kasparius together as the frontline first choice guys, on maybe on the margins, maybe on the bubble. And then I wanted to lump together two guys that have thrown over the weekend in Garrett McDaniels and Paul Gervais that are kind of that next line down. So another guy I want to talk about that's having a sneaky, very good spring training. And let me go ahead and post this in here and type this in. You want to come join the show, audio only? Appreciate the wonderful crowd we have right now. There is the link right there. Come join the show. I want to talk about a couple more guys, and then, of course, anytime anybody wants to come on and do that right now. Come join the show. I just posted the link there, audio only, and so we could have a good time talking about Dodgers baseball. So kind of an interesting, you got to be kind of geeky to enjoy this. Of course, I think if you watch Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network, you know that kind of geeky defines me in terms of the way that I like to cover, the Dodgers and that kind of deal, because I like to give everybody their equal shot, and I like to cover everybody. If you earned it, you get it. This is Nick Senzel. Okay, what I wanted to bring up about Nick Senzel, obviously, he has quite a bit of major league experience, last with the Reds. The Dodgers got him, what was it, last year or the year before? He was with AAA Oklahoma City. I had a chance to meet him several different times. He would Facebook and FaceTime with his young, I believe it's a young daughter, just an absolute elite human being. Totally matches the culture of the Dodgers, 100%. And another thing that Nick Senzel can do, as you look at him here, is that he can play every single position on the field. Trust me on that. He played, now I know you kind of think of him as a third baseman, second baseman type, maybe some first base in a pinch. But Nick played all three outfield positions last year, and I can tell you, I saw it with my own eyes from field level, day in and day out. The Dodgers didn't just stick this guy in the outfield. He was good out there. You can throw Nick Senzel into an outfield in a major league environment, and I don't think he'll stick out, okay? I think he'll be just fine. So Nick Senzel, literally, I mean, he could play every position on the field, literally, at a adequate major league level, whatever you want to determine adequate. When I say adequate, I mean, I think you would play it and you wouldn't just go, who's that freaking guy? He sucks. I don't think you would see him at any defensive position and think that when you watched him, okay? He could play all 7 positions other than pitcher and catcher. That's huge, okay? Now, do I think Nick Senzel is going to make the roster? I do not. I think Santiago Espinal is in front of him. I think even though Alex Freeland's batting average is dumped down to about 167-ish, something like that. Don't exactly quote me on the exact number. So, but he's not hitting the ball. Just know that. His defense has been good. I still think Alex Freeland is ahead of a Nick Senzel. And I definitely think Hyesung Kim is ahead of Nick Senzel as well. So lump Nick Senzel on the position player side into that same lump category as the Paul Gervais, as the Garrett McDaniels, as the Ronan Kopp, as those guys. That's the next line down. So if the Dodgers have a slew of injuries and they've got to go down to that next row of depth, I think Nick Senzel would be the first guy they talk about in those terms. Now, I honestly don't think Nick Senzel will even be in the organization this year because I don't think he's going to make the 26-man roster. I don't even think he'll get put on the 40-man roster. And if he breaks camp and he's not on the 40-man roster, I think you'll see the writing on that wall. I think you will leave the system, and I think he'll go look for another opportunity somewhere else, kind of like Michael Chavis did early last year. So I don't think Nick Senzel is going to be a factor in the Dodgers organization. I don't even think he's going to be in the Dodgers organization after spring training, but he could. And so it's worth at least mentioning that Nick Senzel is having a very, very sneaky, very, very good spring training for the Dodgers. And it's also worth mentioning, just kind of making the case as to why he might stay, why the Dodgers might make him feel valued. Again, he can play all 7 positions. So I don't want to blow smoke and make you think I'm trying to tell you Nick Senzel is going to be, the fourth infielder, the fifth infielder, the fourth outfielder. I'm not saying that. But I am saying just, hey, he's one of those fun guys that, down staff, if you will, that's fun to follow. And elite human being. I'm going to say this on a personal level. I root for this guy because, I'm telling you, man, he would say hello. He would go out of his way to say hello. He would go out of his way to be polite. He's one of the kindest human beings. Absolutely hard worker, totally pro, again, talking about Nick Senzel. So if he's not with the Dodgers, honestly, great, because then he might get a better opportunity somewhere else, and I will be rooting for definitely Nick Senzel as we move on. And then another guy before we get into the comments, and then if you want to hop into the show, please do, because I'm going to go. Again, I'm on somewhat of a limited time schedule on these Monday through Friday shows, but that's fine. We're going to go until we run out of topics or until I run out of time, one or the other. The other guy I wanted to talk about, how about one Mr. Andy Pages? Man, I get it, it's spring training. I get it, he struggled in the postseason. But you know what? To be honest with you, I'm not sure that struggle in the postseason. Keep in mind, the Dodgers still won the World Series. So you lost out on nothing in terms of Andy Pages not having a good offensive postseason. You lost out on nothing because the only goal, nothing matters. Nothing matters if you win a World Series. Doesn't matter who struggles, doesn't matter who plays, doesn't matter who develops. None of that matters. When you win a World Series, that trumps everything. So the Dodgers, in a weird way, now I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat here, and so follow along with me because this is a little bit tinfoilish. On the Andy Pages front, the Dodgers actually got their cake and they got to eat it too. They got the best case scenario in all worlds. Now listen here. He didn't play good offense down the stretch, and you know what? That pissed him off. I'm telling you, that pissed Andy Pages off so bad that he thought about it every second of every day in the offseason. I know Andy Pages. I know how he frets. I know how, not worry's not the right word, but I know how he grinds. I know how much this means to him. And I'm telling you right now, there was not a moment of the day to where his performance offensively in the postseason last year didn't bother him. I'm telling you that for a fact right now. Now, I don't actually have that confirmed from him, but I'm telling you it as a fact from, I've been around Andy Pages so much. I know it. I know for a fact that there was not a moment that his offense didn't bother him. And I say that to say, he is so motivated to fix that, to flip that narrative, that he put in so much work in the offseason, mentally, physically, to close his holes. And one of the biggest complaints, if you go back to any of our shows, even dating back to when he was a prospect in the Dodgers organization, one of the biggest complaints I had with Andy Pages was that I thought he had too many holes offensively. I didn't think he was offensively. That's even before we get to the defense. I felt like the way that he leaned out over the plate, if you threw a two-seam in on his hands as a righty and you started that thing middle and used late movement to get in on his hands, I felt like that was a hole of his because he leans out over the plate. And then the soft stuff away, that's a hole because, again, he has such tilt and he has a little bit of lift in his swing. So if you want to kind of avenge those situations to where, because what happens in the playoffs is you get the best pitching. The other teams are only throwing their best pitchers. So they are more capable of exposing your holes. If you have big holes like Andy Paez, in my opinion, did, when you're only facing the other team's best pitchers every night, they're going to expose those holes. So Andy Paez is going to use that motivation from not having a good end offensively to last year to close those holes. You've already seen it. Pitchers have tried to go to his not hot zones, if you will, his cold zones, which is soft away, up and in, movement that breaks late in on his hands. They've already tried to attack those holes in his swing. And he's coming through, man. He is showing that he has closed those holes. So I think because Andy Paez had that struggle at the end of last year offensively, he is going to be a substantially, not necessarily a better offensive player, but a more consistent offensive player because he's closed his holes. And then on the other end, you could definitely see he jumped that hurdle defensively. Nobody can ever tell Andy Paez or the Dodgers or anybody else that Andy Paez isn't even me, somebody who thought and still thinks he probably should be a right fielder, that he is not a well above defensive outfielder, okay? So the Dodgers are able to win the World Series, get an extremely motivated Andy Paez offensively to close his holes, and an extremely confident defensive Andy Paez. It is absolutely the best of all worlds that the Dodgers could have gotten out of the Andy Paez situation. And because of that, I could not be more excited about the spring training that Andy Paez is having and about the season that I think he's getting ready to have, and for all of those reasons. And again, Blake Trinan didn't throw very well the other day. Kyle Hurt had been throwing absolutely fantastic. Again, just like the Paul Gervais deal, it's not baseballish to take one outing and make any kind of deal out of it whatsoever, which is kind of why my narrative on Sasaki has been a little bit squirrely and way squirrelier than I normally am. But I in my defense, I am going back all the way to last year and from what I've seen with my own eyes over a longer sample size than one or two outings in spring training. So no concerns whatsoever about anything about Kyle Hurt and his last outing. I think even me, who I'm in the fan club for Blake Trinan, you have to be concerned about him, and I think the bullpen race is fascinating to watch. Hey, Chuck Huddleston, thank you so much for joining. Wrobo has been consistent, reliable so far. He sure looks like he has a plan during each outing, no doubt about it. I think what may hold back as being a starter is how well he does in long relief. Yeah, so the Dodgers don't think, it's not that they don't think he couldn't be a good starter. It's just that they think he could be maybe even kind of elite in terms of a long reliever. When I say elite, I don't mean like compare him to the best pitchers in baseball. Compare him to any other pitcher that's doing long relief, and I think he would be one of the best of those in the game of baseball. I think that's Chris Campos, continues to look good in spring. Dude is in mid-season form. CC. You got to realize I'm a prospect cover. CC to me is Chris Campos. So if that's not Chris Campos, or you're not talking about Leo, go ahead and clarify exactly the person you were talking about there. If the decision was made today and it was between Will and Ben, it would be Will Klein. I would agree with that. I can see a scenario where Blake spends some time on the disabled list. That's a good point. Before they move off of Blake Trinan, they will go that route, like they did last year, the disabled list scenario, see if they can fix some things in his throw, get him back to being the consistent. I think that's a great point, great astute point right there, Chuck. It goes to exactly what I'm saying. It's going to take them forever to move off of Blake Trinan. They would go, as Chuck's saying here, the disabled list route first and see if they could clean some things up. So the Baseball Channel 1, thank you so much for joining. Nick can't hit, that's the problem. He's having a good spring training offensively. I heard a report that Kim injured his wrist at the World Baseball Classic. If anybody knows any more about that, let me know. I have not followed the World Baseball Classic. I was in Stillwater all weekend covering both baseball and softball. I'm a credentialed media reporter for them as well. So I got to go early to those games. No, not got to. I have the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity to get to have a media credential to those games. I get access to the players. I get access to Josh Holliday, the head coach. and all of the areas to take video. So I say that only to say I've been in Stillwater all weekend watching both baseball and softball, the Big 12 Wrestling Championship this weekend. So beyond just doing my post, I have not followed the World Baseball Classic at all. So I apologize, but I am not the one to ask about anything World Baseball Classic. So if anybody else is out there knows about the wrist injury to Hyesung Kim, please say something about that. Hey, Gordon Ames, see Hope didn't get sent down. DePaula did. Yes, 100%. I've been telling you that if you were to hold a gun to my head, I'm putting Hope ahead of DePaula, and it's not because I don't like DePaula. I've been going all the way. I've been doing this for about a year now, and that is because the defense. There's some tweener aspect to the defense at DePaula. Great player, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say he's not a great player. I'm just saying there's less that I could see that doesn't translate to the major league level for a Zaire Hope. It literally comes down to one thing, okay? One thing for Zaire Hope, can he make consistent contact enough to tap into the incredible skills? For DePaula, I think it's a couple things. Where does he play defensively? What type of offensive player is he? So is he a guy that you have to put at first base, but he's a slap and Judy where all of his hits are basically slap and Judy hits to left field or right field, like we've seen in spring training, as good as his average is? That's what you've seen. That's the type of hitter you've seen from Josue DePaula, is that low line drive, slap and Judy guy, which is great. I love that profile. I'm not saying I don't, but I don't necessarily love it if it's your right fielder or your first baseman. So there's so much tweener to Josue DePaula right now in terms of those questions that I think there's less to identify for Zaire Hope in terms of what does he need to do to tap into the massive skills. So that's why I've had DePaula ahead of Hope. If you follow Dodgers Dawgs as Dodgers on the Dodgers Data Network, you're welcome to go back to my receipts. So just know that is absolutely not any surprise whatsoever to me that Zaire Hope is still with the big club. Doesn't mean he's going to break with them at all. Edgardo Henriquez, we have a channel about him, or we have a question about him. Just a guy, lump him in with Will Klein, just a guy that has not quite figured out the execution piece. Really hoped that Edgardo would figure it out after the good World Series outing right in front of Will Klein last year, but just hasn't figured out the execution piece. I think if he started tomorrow, I think Will Klein is ahead of Edgardo Henriquez. I think Ben Kasparius is ahead of Edgardo Henriquez. And so I think there's a ways to go for him. I would predict that Edgardo Henriquez start in AAA Oklahoma City and try to refine the command. Again, keep in mind, he's young. I think he's 23, might be 24. There's still lots and lots and lots of time for Edgardo Henriquez. I do think this is a big year for him, though. At some point, you got to go, hey, man, we got to get the execution piece down. We can't keep saying you're young and can't keep saying you're talented. We can't keep saying it's potential, because the definition of potential is you haven't done it yet. We can't keep this narrative forever. Now, there's still time to have that narrative on Edgardo Henriquez. Still time, year, maybe two. But it's coming to that time to where, hey, man, we either get this piece of the puzzle figured out or we don't. That time is coming. And I think that might be, if not this year, next year, that kind of thing. So it's coming up, although he's still only, 23, 24. I think it's coming up fairly quickly. So I say that to say not that I'm not high on Edgardo Henriquez, not that I don't think he'll figure things out to the extent that he needs to fully tap into the incredible arm talent he has. But I do think that there needs to be some urgency in this narrative on Edgardo Henriquez. Hey, the baseball channel, I know it's sad because of Edgardo Henriquez has such arm talent. Hey, Jay, thanks for joining. Hyesung Kim, minor hand injury on a hand first slide. So there you go. And actually, Jay left a link there. Oklahoma State's wrestling freshmen are going to be a problem in the tournament. Yeah, Sergio Vega, D-Lockett. D-Lockett needs to be a little bit more aggressive. No doubt about that. Incredible true freshman class. And then whenever you get into the Cody Merrills, the redshirt freshman guys, yeah, this is a wrestling crew. I think Oklahoma State this year, we're not going to get off on Oklahoma State wrestling, but thank you for the comment there. J.C. Gonzalez. I think this year the goal would be second. Keep in mind, as great as Oklahoma State wrestling is, Oklahoma State wrestling is the greatest college program, not of any sport ever, of any sport when it comes to national titles. Oklahoma State wrestling has not finished second in 10 years. They haven't won a national title in almost 20. So I think the first goal this year, these guys are kind of young. I think the goal this year is second. You're still quite a ways behind Penn State. What Oklahoma State's looking at is next year, get a little bit closer to Penn State, kind of enter the conversation of maybe if things fall right, you might be able to get them next year, and then 2 years from now, when these true freshmen that J.C. Gonzalez are talking about, Vega, D. Lockett, and all these guys that are on the mat, then are juniors, that's when I think you have a legitimate chance to catch Penn State. Hey, thanks for bringing up Oklahoma State wrestling. That was fun to talk about. I talked about that on my O State Daily site quite a bit. So the Baseball Channel won when Hope and DePaula were in Tulsa last season. I watched them a lot, and DePaula looked bad. Hope looked really good. Hope looked fantastic. Matter of fact, I think Zaire Hope hit almost 500 in his time with Tulsa. Josue DePaula, keep in mind, very short sample size. It was the last week of the season / postseason. So I'll say this. I don't disagree with you, the Baseball Channel. You're right on your results as far as how they look, the results and everything, but way too little of a sample size to really create any kind of narrative on either one of them. Great White Raiders, speaking of outfield, would love to hear your thoughts on James Tibbs III and Zach Earhart. Well, I could spend all day. We just talked about Oklahoma State wrestling. How about Oklahoma State baseball? And I spent all weekend, again, in the press box at, I always want to say, Allie P. Reynolds Stadium, which was the wonderful home for Oklahoma State for so long. But O'Brate Stadium, beautiful O'Brate Stadium. As a matter of fact, President Bush was the one who threw out the very first pitch at O'Brate Stadium in 2001 when Justin Robleski was part of that pitching staff for Oklahoma State. Zach Earhart is a guy I've been telling you, he's just a ball player. I mean, you tell me, you've watched him. Don't you love his competitiveness? Don't you love the way he competes? Don't you love his fire? Don't you love his Pete Rose type hustle? He's happily pissed. He's pissed all the time, and that's in a good way because he's pissed at the pitcher. He's pissed at the ball. He's pissed that baseball has so much failure in it. But it's not a like pissed, I don't want to be around that guy. He's a energy vampire. Not at all. It's inspiring because it's like he makes you go, that's one competitive dude. I wish I could be that competitive. I'm going to try to raise my competitive level to match him. So that's number one. Then he's good. Okay, so at Oklahoma State, Zach Earhart on Friday night would be the leadoff hitter. On Saturday, he'd bat 4-hole, and on Sunday, he'd bat 2-hole. This guy is a little guy that's not a little guy. He has pop, no doubt about it. So he has one of the most complete offensive games of any prospect. He's not a one-hit wonder. He's not just a, hey, well, he hits the ball hard, or hey, well, he has great plate. No, it's a complete game. Does he have one carrying tool? No. But he can hit the ball to right center. He can hit doubles gap to gap. He can hit home runs. He can gather you a base hit up the middle. He can pull the ball. He can hit the ball to right field. He can bunt the ball. He can steal bases. And he is a tremendous outfielder. And keep in mind, in Tampa, Florida, he grew up as a shortstop. So he could play infield as a pinch. But I say that only to say that just goes to show you how great of an athlete he is. Great athlete, great baseball player. And in terms of James Tibbs III, I'm going to say this very point blank. James Tibbs III did well with Double-A Tulsa. And I hope if he's watching this, I hope this doesn't come off negative at all. But I'm just going to say I wasn't like blown away like, oh, wow, look at this guy. The Dodgers got a steal for this. He didn't do that, okay? I mean, yes, he was good. And he was more so clutch than he was good. And I'm saying this to give him a compliment. Because I'm telling you the way that James Tibbs III looks in spring training so far, as good as he was at times for Tulsa last year, it's different. He looks different. James Tibbs III looks different right now. He looks like he's had that, aha, that's it moment to where things are clicking for him. He's comfortable. He's confident. He's taken the instruction in the Dodgers organization, and he's become the pro that people thought he was going to be. Keep in mind, he was the player of the year in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and behind the SEC, the Atlantic Coast Conference is easily the second best baseball conference, and I'm not sure the ACC is not better than the SEC. The SEC gets all the hype because of ESPN. So to be the Atlantic Coast Conference Player of the Year, the ACC Player of the Year at Florida State, that shows you just how great he is, okay? So you expect him to be a great pro. Things haven't worked out perfectly for him. I think right now he's figured out for the first time this is the most comfortable and the most confident he has been as a pro. And I could not be more impressed with James Tibbs III. And I think it's been fun because coming into spring training, if you're just kind of a casual prospect follower, you're like, well, I want to see Josue DePaula. I want to see Zaire Hope. I want to see Eduardo Quintero. I want to see Mike Sirota. Those are the four names you kept hearing over and over and over. Kept telling you, Zach Earhart, James Tibbs III, these guys are good, even a Chris Newell. And I think it's exciting that people with their own eyes, without somebody telling them that, has seen that, hey, if we started tomorrow and the Dodgers had to have an outfielder start at the major league level, why would that guy not be Zach Earhart? Okay? I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. And I think more and more Dodgers fans have seen that with their own eyes. And that's not to say Zaire Hope isn't awesome. That's not to say Josue DePaula isn't awesome. Not to say that. Not to say James Tibbs III hasn't been great, but when you put the complete game, the most major league ready game right now, in terms of, well, the guy doesn't really have any glaring weaknesses. He has lots of strengths. He's good at so many different things. I think he's the most major league ready outfielder the Dodgers have. Now, call me a homer. He's an Oklahoma State boy. I can't push back on that. But make up your own mind. Just watch without, this is why you need to watch without having, this is why I don't like top prospects list. Just watch without a preconceived notion. Make up your mind without having any thoughts about it before you go into it. And just evaluate all these guys with a clean slate and tell me what you think. Leave your comment as far as that goes. And why I would pick probably Earhart over Tibbs III is because I think it's the Zaire Hope versus Josue DePaula. I think he's a better defender. I mean, I just do. I think James Tibbs III would tell you that. Now, can Zach Earhart play first base? No, obviously not. But again, that's why I said about Ryan Moore. I don't care how he plays first base defensively. He's not ever going to play first base at the major league level. It's either going to be Freddie, Dalton, or Kike. Okay? It's not going to be Ryan Ward. It wouldn't be James Tibbs III, I don't think. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Yes, Gordon Ames loves Tibbs and Earhart. What a return for Dustin May, especially knowing Dustin May was going to be a free agent and the Dodgers were not going to re-sign him. And the Dodgers won the World Series. So by dealing Dustin May and still winning the World Series, you didn't need Dustin May to win the World Series. So you traded him, and now you won the World Series. You weren't going to get Dustin May back anyways. Now you won the World Series, which would have been the only drawback to dealing Dustin May was, well, now we might not win the World Series because we need him for these last 3 months of the season. Well, you did win the World Series. So you literally lost absolutely not one single thing by dealing Dustin May because, again, you weren't getting him back this year. You weren't going to re-sign him. And in the meantime, you gained Zach Earhart and James Tibbs III, who Gordon Ames right here is saying he loves those two. Earhart had 37 stolen bases last year. Can you talk about the speed component? High-end speed or more base stealing skill? It's more on the just overall great athlete and what goes into it all great. I'm going to say great athlete. I'm not going to say elite runner by any stretch. I think has good speed. It's not Kendall George speed. I wouldn't say it's going to be in the elite level at the major league level. But what goes into the components of a great athlete are ability to anticipate. So some guys, for instance, can go out and run a 60 and look great. It's kind of like having a 5 o'clock hitter where guys can hit home runs and mash the ball in batting practice, and then you get them in a game and they don't hit at all, okay? So Zach Earhart's the opposite of that in terms of his speed. So I don't think if you just measured him in a 60 and you put him with all the other major leaguers, I don't know how high he'd be up in that list. I'm not going to say he would be. But I think whenever you put his anticipation level, his knowledge of how to read pitchers, the aggressive nature of which he plays the game with, the intelligence, the IQ that he plays the game with, when you put all that together, well, I don't think he probably would be an elite runner. I think he is a very much so an upper echelon athlete. And I back that up with saying, however fast you want to say somebody is in a 60, fine. I'm going to tell you that Zach Earhart is upper echelon baseball fast. Whenever he's tracking down a fly ball, he's going to take the right route. He's going to get a great jump, and he's going to compare that with very, very good speed and an aggressive nature that's going to allow him to never slow down. So I'm going to say there's two different ways to evaluate this. Raw speed, like Kendall George, maybe a Cole Myers, okay? But then baseball game speed, overall athletic ability speed, I'm going to say Zach Earhart is very much so, even at the major league level, upper echelon because of putting all of those things together. I hope that explained, I hope that was an answer that explained what you were looking for there. Hey, the Baseball Channel 1, I take pictures for the Tulsa Drillers, and Zach and James are both Class X. Hey, the Baseball Channel, is this, well, I don't want to say your first name, okay? But welcome to the show, man. I did not know that was you. That's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for joining. You are a class act too, and I tell you, I know all these, I'll say this point blank, okay? And I'm not going to say the first name here. But you have that Tulsa T drip behind it. So there's one thing, it's one thing to get pictures, but if this is the person that I think that it is, which I'm pretty sure it is, it's not just the taking the close-up pictures. What this person does is they totally understand the backdrop and they understand baseball. And so they get the pictures that actually have the drip in the background, have the beautiful Tulsa skyline in the background. And there's just a total understanding of what makes kind of that Norman Rockwell feature to taking pictures. So I'm just going to tell you that the pictures that come out of the Tulsa Drillers, absolutely elite. And so is Landon Knack, if this is that same person that I think we're talking about, because this person that I think we're talking about is not just professional, but very good personal friends with Landon Knack. Very much so. Landon loves this person to death. Every time I see Landon in Oklahoma City or wherever, mentions this person by name. So, hey, thanks for answering, Casey. I think we'll both see both the guys make an appearance in Los Angeles. So I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to put this link in the chat. We've been going on for almost an hour. Wow, I guess I get kind of windy. If you want to hop in, now's your time. We got a couple of minutes to go as I'm going to kind of sum this up again. The guys that are borderline major leaguers, Ben Kasparius, we talked about him, Justin Wroblewski. I think Wroblewski's a lock. I don't think Ben Kasparius is. As a matter of fact, I think if you forced me to answer, I think Ben would probably start out tomorrow in AAA Oklahoma City, because I agree with Chuck there that I think that spot is probably Will Klein's at the moment. So I think Wroblewski, yes. Kasparius, probably not. Kasparius, I think it's interesting to see starter or long reliever. Again, elite in relief, much better ERA in relief, so that's going to be an interesting thing to watch for him. Then you're next down the line, the Ronan Copps, who is doing very well. Paul Gervais, who has been fantastic other than one outing. Garrett McDaniels, who looked good yesterday. There's your next line. And then you have that next line of guys like the James Tibbs III, the Zach Earharts, the Josue Paulas, the Zaire Hopes, those kind of guys that really are kind of competing for the future. And then if all hell breaks loose, they could get maybe a look down the line as far as this year goes. And then also I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Blake Trinan. So, hey, that's going to be my show for today. What a wonderful crowd we had. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we're going to knock this out every morning at 9 o'clock Pacific on my lunch period. So thank you so much for tuning in, and just make this part of your day from now on. So, again, one more time, thank you for tuning in. And as always, it's a great day to be a Dodger.